Understanding EMDR therapy. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR. It's good to understand what it is, who it can help, and how it works. In today's society, it is important to understand the different forms of treatment available for ourselves and the people we care about. EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, is a form of therapy that helps alleviate emotional distress and symptoms that result from trauma and negative life experiences. We all go through various negative experiences. The key to know if this treatment would help is that if you're still stuck in remembering things from the past and there's a heightened emotional or affect that comes with it. If you're still experiencing a lot of emotion tied to negative experiences in the past, this may be helpful. It facilitates the processing of these experiences and the strengthening of more positive thoughts related to troubling life events. Many times when we go through difficulties, we also personalize them and we attach negative labels or cognitive distortions, distorted ways of seeing reality. During the therapy process, you're able to, one, neutralize affect that is intense, but also reconceptualize and reframe negative thoughts that you tie to negative experiences. People struggling in the aftermath of distressing life events and experiences can suffer from a number of disturbing and distressing symptoms. You may feel that you are in a life-threatening danger all the time or feel unsafe in your world. They may hold strong negative beliefs about themselves and distrust others or distrust certain events. They may have difficulty concentrating, sleeping, feel isolated and detached from other people, and unable to enjoy life. EMDR is widely recognized and an effective form of treatment. EMDR uses bilateral stimulation to activate two distinct areas of the brain that compromise our emotional networking system. The amygdala, where traumatic events and memories are stored, the area that generates our fight or flight response, and an area of the front of the brain that performs what we refer to as executive functions, like planning, organizing, reasoning, and controlling traumas. Developed in the 1980s, EMDR is widely recognized as an effective form of treatment for trauma and disturbing life experiences by organizations around the world, including the World Health Organization, the International Society for Traumatic Stress Studies, and APA, American Psychological Association, and many other places. It's important to understand the impact of trauma and distressing life experiences. In order to understand how EMDR works, it's important to understand trauma and how difficult memories or difficult experiences and distressing emotional experiences impact us. Virtually anyone who experiences or witnesses a traumatic event, a tragic car accident, an act of violence, a natural disaster, etc. Further, prolonged distressing events like growing up in a family where physical or emotional abuse was existing, or prolonged exposure to neglect or abuse, a history of negative treatments, bullying, etc., can have negative cumulative effects. Typically, when something is distressing in our life, we are initially impacted, but eventually we come to terms with what we've experienced or witnessed. We can use our powers of reasoning to accept what has occurred, see it as an isolated event rather than a repeating pattern and threat. We recover and we can move on from a distressing experience. But trauma sometimes can impact us very severely and differently. Experiences can remain trapped in an area of our brain that changes the way the brain responds to threats. Trauma basically blocks our ability to process and move beyond our negative experiences. We can remain stuck and unable to process and recover from distressing events or a series of events. It is important to understand that EMDR can help by reestablishing a connection, that is to say, creating healthier neural pathways between the part of the brain that harbors the trauma and the part that can process it. This is a multi-phase treatment. It's not harmful. It's easy to facilitate as long as your therapist is trained in it. Trauma essentially shuts down the neural pathways between the trauma and where it's stored and where it's processed. EMDR, through a number of 8-phase treatments, EMDR can reestablish a connection by clearing blocked neural pathways between these two areas of the brain. Reestablishing these pathways allows somebody who's struggling with the trauma to bring in their ability to reason, remove some of the affect, and ease the impact of their traumatic experiences. This also decreases the impact of symptoms, bringing in resources that they didn't realize they had, and decreasing feelings of helplessness, and eases the memories by decreasing the affect level whenever triggered. The person can begin to see their trauma as an isolated rather than never ever ending present. Many times we need to realize that those incidences are not happening today, but when we're in a place of trauma, we feel like they're happening every day with triggers that take us back to that threat. Plus, it's important for us to recognize how well supported we are with our own skill set and resources and self-care, which in the moment of being triggered, we have a hard time retrieving that information. The initial phases of treatment involve exploring and assessing the trauma by you talking about it and preparing for EMDR. The second phase pertains to EMDR bilateral stimulation that helps you go into the memories and helps you also uncover the thoughts and the emotions that are tied to it. Using eye movement and often other forms of bilateral stimulation, this allows us to open up the traumas of where they're processed, establish a peaceful place, and figure out wise figures, protective figures, and nurturing figures that are around us that have always been able to help us through things. And it creates more proactive resources and life strategies. You start tying positive things to a negative experience, and you allow yourself to recognize that you are capable of handling things, even when you feel incapable. The final stages of treatment involve closure and reevaluating your trauma. People suffering from a single incident trauma have found tremendous results just after one treatment. People suffering from complex PTSD and traumas can find that they have repeating patterns of anxiety, panic disorders, PTSD, complex PTSD, and these people find great relief after more extended periods of treatment. It's important to start exploring things. I take this mindful moment now for you to reflect on your life from birth to now and notice, are there things that I harbor that still bring me a lot of intense affect and emotion? What are some memories that bother me, or experiences, or hurtful times where people disappointed me, or I disappointed myself? Let's take a mindful moment now to breathe, inhale and exhale into allowing yourself to recognize what are some memories and past experiences that I still stay stuck on. And maybe EMDR is something that you can look into. But step one, the first step to treatment is awareness. Are there any memories from the past that still get me riled up, frustrated, anxious, sad? Let's try to pay attention from birth to now and notice things that still come up for us. Let's take a deep breath in and breathe out. Another deep breath in and breathe out. And take this mindful moment to reflect on your life and memories that come up naturally that are bothersome still. If your mind tends to wander, gently bring it back and continue to breathe and reflect. A healing message as I bring you back. Life is a series of experiences, mostly good with some bad. For the most part, we take the good with the bad, but sometimes we can become stuck in a deeply troubling experience or series of experiences. As a clinical psychologist who specializes in treating trauma and distressing events, I believe that we are more than our experiences and more than our pain, and that we are here to live our life in full at our highest and best. And in my 25 years of treating patients, I have been privileged to witness profound alleviation of suffering and affect that really disturbs us by using something called EMDR. I'm proud of all the people who have tried to step up and work through difficulties in their life, as it takes bravery, dedication, and resilience. Each of us are able to alleviate our symptoms. We just sometimes need to take a step forward into treatment and know that there's a lot more out there in resources. If you think you or somebody you know may benefit from EMDR, let's talk to a family doctor or primary care physician about accessing treatment. Many physicians are able to provide support and also medical help, treatment, as well as resources out there in the community. Explore online resources like emdrcanada.org or look up therapists that facilitate EMDR, as it's not painful but is highly effective in alleviating affect and distressing symptoms that come with uncomfortable, unpleasant traumas and difficult experiences. Share your knowledge of this highly effective treatment if you know somebody close to you is suffering, as many people just don't know what's available, and it is important for us to start paying it forward, helping people learn that there is a way to go forward from our pain and suffering instead of stay stuck in it.